Welcome back, my friends. Today we continue Kael's journey in episode 11, a tale of Bale's secret and the fight for freedom. Stay with us until the end and don't forget to subscribe for the next chapter.
The sun blazed over the Colosseum like a golden crown, casting long shadows across the sand-stained arena floor. The roar of 50,000 Romans shook the air as the gates creaked open. Kael stepped into the light, but his face was hidden beneath an iron mask carved into the visage of a faceless warrior. Rumors had spread quickly in the Eternal City. Some said the masked gladiator was a ghost of a fallen general. Others claimed he was a barbarian champion who had slain kings. No one knew the truth. Kael intended to keep it that way, at least for now. His first battles in Rome were brutal displays of skill and ferocity. He fought with a precision that bordered on unnatural, anticipating moves before they came, striking with lethal efficiency. The crowd adored him instantly. They chanted for blood, for victory, for the masked warrior. From the imperial balcony, Emperor Septimus watched with mild curiosity. At his side sat the noble families of Rome, their jeweled garments glittering in the sun. Among them, Kael saw him, the man who had ordered his father's death. And seated beside the killer, a woman with a young daughter, innocent eyes watching the blood-soaked sand. Kael fought and won, again and again. His victories became the talk of the city. Senators bet fortunes on his matches. Artists sketched his silhouette. Merchants sold crude masks shaped like his own. But behind the cold steel, Kael's heart burned with one thought: revenge. Even in the dim, torch-lit corridors beneath the arena, the roar of the crowd above him was a constant reminder of Rome's thirst for blood. Kael sat alone on a stone bench, his mask resting on his lap. The scars on his face and body told a story none of his fellow gladiators dared to ask. Whispers followed him everywhere. Trainers spoke awestruck of his skill. Guards kept their distance, and slaves brought him food without meeting his gaze. He had become a living legend in just a few weeks, a mystery wrapped in steel. But the man he sought was never far from his thoughts. A senator, Gaius Aelius Scarpus, had once ordered Kael's father to lead him into a doomed battle, then had him treacherously murdered. It was Scarpus who had destroyed his family. Now he sat comfortably in the emperor's lap, laughing at the games. Kael knew that patience was his greatest weapon. The time would come when his blade would meet a man's throat, but not yet. For now, each victory brought him closer to the emperor's attention and his ultimate goal. That night, as moonlight flooded the barracks, one of the gladiators leaned toward him. "They say you fight like a man who is already dead." Kael did not answer. He simply put his mask back on. The Emperor's games reached their peak during the Festival of Mars. The Colosseum was packed beyond capacity, nobles elbowing for better views, the lower classes screaming themselves hoarse. Kael's opponent was a seasoned champion, a Thracian warrior with over 30 victories. The fight was unlike any Kael had faced in Rome. The Thracian moved like a serpent, fast and precise, each strike aiming for the kill. Steel clashed, shields splintered. The crowd gasped and roared with every blow. Kael's mask was dented by a vicious strike, but he countered with a devastating upward slash, tearing into the Thracian's side. Blood spilled on the sand. When the fight ended, Kael stood over his opponent, sword raised. The Emperor extended his hand in the signal for mercy. Kael obeyed, sheathing his blade, earning murmurs of surprise. Mercy was rare in the Colosseum, but it made the masked gladiator even more intriguing to the people. From the imperial box, Kael felt Scarpus's gaze burning into him. The nobleman looked unsettled, perhaps even suspicious. The mask was protecting Kael's identity for now.
It was during one of his mid-season victories that Kael noticed them again. The woman and her daughter, seated near Gaius Aelius Scarpus. The girl was no older than 10, her eyes wide with both fear and fascination. Kael wondered if she knew the kind of man she sat beside. After the fight, he passed near their seats during the victor's parade. The woman's eyes met his for a fraction of a second. There was recognition there, not of his face, but of the fire in his eyes. She turned away quickly. Rumors spread that the masked gladiator fought for something more than glory or coin. Some said it was for love, others for revenge. The truth was locked behind the iron mask and Kael's silence. But he knew the day was coming when that mask would fall.
The announcement came like a thunderclap, a final grand battle to decide the champion of Rome. The prize, freedom, granted personally by the Emperor. Kael knew this was his moment. His name, or rather his mask, had dominated the games for months. The crowd adored him. The Emperor respected him. Scarpus feared him. The day of the final battle, Kael walked into the Colosseum under a blood-red dawn. His opponent was a hulking Germanic gladiator, unbeaten in Rome, a mountain of muscle and fury. The fight was savage. Sand turned to mud under their feet from the blood. The Germanic warrior broke Kael's shield. Kael cut deep into the man's thigh. Blow after blow, neither yielded. The crowd roared like a living beast. Finally, with one last surge, Kael drove his sword into the man's chest. The giant fell. The Colosseum erupted.
The Emperor rose from his throne. "Champion," he declared, "Rome grants you freedom." Kael stepped forward. The crowd chanted his name, the name they had given him, not the one he was born with. Slowly, he reached up and removed the mask. Gasps rippled through the arena. Some recognized him instantly. Scarpus went pale. "I am Kael," he said, voice carrying across the Colosseum, "son of Marcus Varro. And I claim not my freedom, but the right to challenge the man who murdered my father." The crowd erupted into chaos. The Emperor, amused, raised his hand for silence. "Then let it be so."
Kael stood in the center of the Colosseum, no longer a masked shadow, but a man with a name, a history, and a purpose. Scarpus was forced into the arena, dressed in ceremonial armor, his face pale as marble. The crowd chanted for blood. Kael tightened his grip on the sword. This was the fight he had waited for his entire life. The Emperor leaned forward, smiling like a wolf. Begin. The sand shifted under Kael's boots as he advanced. This was no longer a game, no longer for the crowd. It was justice, and Rome would witness it.
That was episode 11 of Kael's story. If you enjoyed this chapter, hit the like button, leave a comment, and subscribe so you won't miss the next epic battle.